just found out a friend of mine just passed away. I mean, it must have been just within the day or so. I haven't talked to him in a while, but most people in the business knew who Greg Jein was. And a master model maker, a legend, basically. Just put in IMD, put in Greg Jein, and look at some of his credentials and what he's done. And believe it or not, it wasn't Star Wars that got me into wanting to get into movies. I mean, it really pushed me that's what I want to do for a living. It was an issue of Cinefex, and the whole magazine spread was about Greg Jein and his miniatures. So he had the work he did in Close Encounters, but it was the work he did in 1941, of all things. So you'd think, okay, and seeing all the cool spaceships or whatever probably got me into this, but no. There's those amazing miniatures like the Ferris wheel and just the whole thing. I mean, all these miniatures, downtown Hollywood back in the day, and all wire work. It just fascinated me more than seeing like pictures. In Star Wars, everything was on a stand, the blue screen. But these are full-built miniatures, forced perspective, you name it. Just amazing things. And that's when I decided that's what I want to do for a living. But, so once I finally did get to do that for a living, it's about like 1989 or 1990, I worked for Boss Films, and John Eves worked for him for quite a bit. And John Eves introduced him to me. And I just talked about how I admired his work. It was the 1941 issue on Cinefex that really got me into it. And it's funny to think about, because the first thing he said is, "No, fuck, that show." I said, "Oh, what?" He goes, "I was on that thing for 2 years. I think it was 2 years. 2 years just working on those stupid miniatures. I didn't think it was like being in prison, I think is what he said, yeah, that was my introduction to him. But I worked with him on quite a few things. Worked on, I can't think of all of them. There's a lot of different things, but a lot of Star Trek stuff. He was doing a lot of Next Generation stuff. And the last thing I believe I worked on him with was when he was working on All Good Things, the final episode of Next Generation. And I worked on the futuristic Klingon ship, if you want to call it that. And no, that wasn't the last job I worked on him with. I take it back. It was Stargate. It might have been the movie Stargate. It was a big job. And I believe that was the last one. But we saw each other from time to time, have lunch or something, And so that's a funny story about Stargate, about Greg. He wanted me to build this thing, but obviously I didn't understand what he wanted, because I built this thing and it had to go out that day. And I brought him out to show it to him, and he looks at it and goes, "Wrong." And I kind of turned away, and as he turned away, I thought it was funny at the time, because he doesn't like yell at you like some of these guys will. He just kind of turned around as he walked away, went like that. I just thought it was a funny thing. He doesn't get mad and scream and holler. He's not a Michael Bay kind of guy, or like some of these ridiculous art directors could be, or probably still are. But so the last time I saw him, I was working on Iron Man 2. I was really just there for a little bit. I had since moved out of California, because pretty much the work had dried up, and back to Florida doing my models, and then I got a little bit of work in Utah working on this Christmas movie. But I just happened to call a friend of mine who was working over at Legacy Effects, aka the people who used to work for Stan Winston. And so I worked on Iron Man 2 for a few weeks there. And I met up with him, had lunch, had a nice conversation, talked about some fun times. And it was fun. And I hadn't talked to him for a long time. Once I moved, it might have been years. I know it's been years since between the times we talk, every few years. So I was talking to Greg Jein. Not Greg Jein. Shows you where my head's at right now. I was talking to John Eves. John Eves called me just to talk. John Eves didn't know at the time. and we just talking about things to do. He's Wonderfest and everything, and meeting up there and whatnot. And said to John Eves, I should give Greg a call after we're done talking, just to say, hey, how's he doing? And he told me then that his health wasn't in really good shape, but yeah, but he didn't know. Who knew? And so I called up, and some a lady answered the phone, and I pretty much thought maybe it was his nurse, and it might have been his nurse. And she told me, and told me to keep it quiet. So I'm just doing this now because it's fresh, and I'll put it up, later when they say it's good, because they got a lot to sort out right now. So yeah, it's an unfortunate thing when somebody like that dies, yeah. So yeah, this is just he was a great guy. Nice guy to work for. He definitely knew his definitely knew his shit when coming up and doing miniatures and stuff. Had a good sense of humor. His shop used to crack me up because I went to his shop. It was like, is this a shop or a storage facility? Because basically if you have to work there, there's no tables that you can pick up. You just got to kind of move the 5-foot Excelsior, primed up 5-foot Excelsior over so you could work on that table. You're drooling your kid in a candy store because he's got, like I was saying, the Excelsior is 5 foot and primer, an Excelsior. That was obviously not used. And there's a B9 robot over here, and over in this closet that he has a red 2001 Space Odyssey suit. And sitting on the floor next to that was the Chariot from Lost in Space. He just had all this amazing stuff there. And so every time I go and sit into his shop, I say, can I have that over there? And he goes, no. I say, why? They say, because Paramount won't let me give it to you. So I said, you're no fun. That's what I'd say to him. He just kind of laughed a little bit. Yeah, so he was a good guy to work for. His mentality was he didn't come out and bother you too much because, he hired you as a professional to do a job. If you made a mistake, you fix it. You don't have to come to me. And that was pretty much it. He'd go in his office and do whatever he had to do. And, a real easygoing guy, real quiet guy. I've never seen him yell or angry or throw anything. I've seen him grumpy. He's working on this smaller enterprise for next generation. The enterprise I don't care much for. It's what is it? Is it the D? The D, I think it is. I think it's the D, the saucer that goes this way instead of this way. And he's doing it. They needed a smaller one because they had the great big one, for the show. They just wanted a smaller one, so he did I think it was like a 4-foot one. But he was doing all this fine painting. So I said, hey, how's it going, Greg? I'm trying to get this fucking thing out of my shop. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, But so working overnighters and all that, I get grumpy too. Who doesn't? But so that's my recollections. I just wanted to share that with you and with anybody else that knew him. Hopefully you have some stories people that worked with him. Hopefully you can share some stories. I hope that, like I said, this is before I was supposed to. I'm doing this now, and then I'll release it. So I don't know if John Eves will be going to Wonderfest now once he finds out this information. And if he does, we're going to do a panel. And if we do the panel, we'll talk about Greg now, and some of the things, some of the stories, some of the fun stories, funny stories, to honor his life. So I guess that's it for now. I just thought I'd share this. I'll take it easy. And like I said, look him up on IMDb. You'll be very impressed. Look him up on Cinefex magazine. I can't remember what issue it was, but look for the one with the Close Encounters or the 1941 miniature on the cover. Some amazing stuff. Okay, that's all.